Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Tibra's Den. My name was Whitney, and today we have part 3 of 24 Days of Bookmas. So this will be rounding out the 24 Days of Bookmas. I've had so much fun with all the books I've read so far. We started with 7 books, then we read 8 books, one of which I am still working on. So I'm still working on Silent Night, the story of the World War I Christmas truce by Stanley Weintraub, I want to say is how you pronounce his last name. I have 100 pages left to go. Little bit of a struggle, but I will talk more on my thoughts on this one tomorrow, hopefully when I have finished it. So yeah, still working on this one from week 2, but today is the 16th and we get to open another book. So this one, I don't know what it is because it's smaller. And so I'm not entirely sure what this one is, but I'm excited to find out. So let's go ahead and see. I do have a dentist appointment. I'm just trying to kill a little bit of time because I don't want to be super early there, but I do have to leave shortly, so I'm just basically probably going to open this one up and then head on out if I can even get it open. My goodness. Okay, so today's book is... Okay. So we have In a Holidaze by Christina Lauren. I'm really actually excited about this. I've seen, a lot of people putting it on their TBRs. And so it says, it's the most wonderful time of the year, but not for Maylin Jones. She's living with her parents, hates her going nowhere job, and has just found out that this is the last Christmas she and her family will spend at the picturesque, snowy Utah cabin they visit every year. As if it's not bad enough, she's just made a romantic error of epic proportions. But when she's driving away, after saying what she thinks is the final goodbye to her favorite place in the world, May sends out a plea to the universe. Please, show me what will make me happy. The next thing she knows, tires screech, everything goes black, and she begins the same holiday all over again, and again, and again, until she can finally figure out how to get her true love under the mistletoe. Jam-packed with Yuletide cheer, an unforgettable cast of characters, and Christina Lauren's trademark downright hilarious hijinks, the swoon-worthy romantic read will make you believe in the power of wishes and the magic of the holidays. So I've only read one book by Christina Lauren, and I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. So I'm excited to give this holiday one a try. So I won't start this, obviously, until I finish this one. So probably later this evening. I'm going to take this to my dentist appointment and try to work more on it there. 100 pages isn't that much, though, so hopefully I'll be able to get this done and jump into this one. But I'm excited about this one. I would like to finish both these up tonight because tomorrow's is one of the bigger books, and I don't know what it is, but it's one of the bigger books, so I don't want to be behind starting right off the bat for part 3, and so yeah, that's my plans for today. I will be back on in the morning to let you know my thoughts on these, and so for you guys, it'll be just a moment and I will be right back. All right, it is day 17. I finished from the second part 2 video, Silent Night, the story of the World War I Christmas truce by Stanley Weintraub. It took me the whole rest of the day until about 8 o'clock at night. It's just so dry. And that I don't think in and of itself would have been too bad if it had been better organized and not so repetitive. But all those combined just made it really hard to get through. I enjoyed little bits here and there, but for the most part, it was a struggle and it was just so repetitive. He was talking about the same thing throughout different regiments. And like I said, it could have been better organized, and I think that would have helped because he would have a snippet of a letter or something from one guy talking about the exact same event. Like there's one chapter devoted, they played football, I guess, which soccer, for US, because we call it football, and soccer. But yeah, they played that. And so that part is they would have little snippets, but he didn't put them all together and then expand on them. Or, kind of have one thing and woven them, he would like have that, talk about it, and then kind of go off and then have another snippet and talk about the exact same thing he'd already been talking about. So yeah, it was just a struggle. I liked the premise of it though, and like I said, there were little bits here and there that I did enjoy. And in the end, it was kind of like, well, what if that Christmas truce had ended in the war being over, and talking about how things might have been different going forward. But yeah, I mean, if you're kind of like a history buff, you might enjoy this, but otherwise it's just a struggle. So there's that one. And then I read 125 pages of In a Holidaze by Christina Lauren last night. Those read really, really fast because I ended up doing my little review for this one, and I ended up having like a little snack, and then read it for a little bit, and then I kind of watched a few videos when we went into bed, and then I decided I was gonna go ahead and get another shower, and so I just got in the shower because I had showered in the morning, but yeah. So anyway, they read fast for the time that I read them in. And so I have just under 200 pages to go. I should fly through that. It's a mass market, paperback type book. It's taller than normal, but so there's not a lot on each of the pages, so I should fly through those, like I said, under 200 pages pretty quickly. So I'll be working on that. I am really, really loving this. Like, I'm having a great time. There's a few pop culture references, not obnoxious, but like some of them are just unnecessary. Some of them fit. But yeah, other than that, I'm really, really enjoying it. I like our main character, Malin. And I like so far, because it's kind of like a Groundhog Day situation, where she's reliving this day, and so I like so far it hasn't been super repetitive, because that's always a concern when you're repeating the same day, but it's been really mixed up, and the parts that are kind of repetitive have been more like glossed over or changed just a little bit. So it's very well written. I'm having a great time. I'm enjoying this. I read Something Wilder by these authors, and that one I enjoyed it, but it was just okay for me. This one I'm loving, so I'm excited to finish that up today. And we got a big one. This is one of the bigger ones. I think this might be the biggest one from over there. So we're on day 17. So let's go ahead and see what we got in here. I don't remember what these bigger books are. There's another one over there too. I have no clue what they are. Like, I don't remember what they were. And so this is going to be a surprise for me as well. So let's go ahead and... Okay, awesome. So this is The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox, which is another author duo. And I read All I Want for Christmas in week 2, or part 2, because it was technically an extra day there. And I did not love that. Like, it ended up being a 2-star for me. But in that one, the characters were really unlikable, and they had each taken a character, which I think caused a disconnect. So one of them wrote the male character and the other one wrote the female character. I think in this one, they actually worked on it together. So I am hoping I enjoy this one more than I did the other book by this author. And this premise is right up my alley. I love like the Christmas movies that do this. So it says, when chef Charlie Goodwin gets hit on the head on the LA set of her reality baking show, she loses her critical ability to taste and smell. Meanwhile, Charlie's identical twin, Cass, is frantically trying to hold her own life together back in their quaint mountain hometown while running the family's bakery and dealing with a breakup that just won't end. With only days until Christmas, a desperate Charlie and Cass do something they haven't done since they were kids: switch places. But when rugged firefighter Jake Greenman and gorgeous physician assistant Miguel Rodriguez are thrown into the mix, will the twins' identity swap be a recipe for disaster or for getting their lives back on track? And so, yeah, even though this is like a bigger like hardback, it's only 330 pages, and the writing is really big. So this is actually going to be a really easy read. So I'm excited for today. I decided, because going, having any sort of appointment or anything like that always wears me down. So I've already done the dishes. And I think I've decided I'm just gonna not worry about any other chores today. My original plan was to just kind of have a relaxed day anyway, and then do chores tomorrow on Wednesday. And I think that's what I'm gonna do. I got the dishes done. My husband's gonna cook tonight because we're gonna have BLTs, and I don't cook bacon. Like, I will on occasion, but I really hate it. So he's cooking tonight, and so I already got the dishes done. So all I have to do is just relax and enjoy my reads. And this is gonna be the perfect day. I'm really looking forward to finishing this up. I would have stayed up late last night, but I was so tired. And I've been waking up like every couple hours the last few nights. And last night I was so tired, and I just was like, I'm not going to force myself. And I went to sleep, and I actually slept through the night, which was amazing. So yeah, I'm excited to finish this one up, and I hope I enjoy this one, even though I didn't enjoy the other one by these authors. So, yeah, I'm excited. So I will be back in a moment for you guys, but tomorrow morning for me to let you know my thoughts on these two books. All right, it is day 18. I did finish In a Holidaze last night by Christina Lauren. I love this. This was everything I wanted in a Christmas romance. Like, it just was very good. There were some things that I didn't like, but because I enjoyed the characters and the story so much, like, it still ended up getting a 5-star for me. There were quite a bit of pop culture references. Some of them really worked because of the theme of the book, like the Groundhog Day pop culture reference. That works. Like, that really worked for this, and like some of the Christmas pop culture references. Some of them, like, yeah, they would have been Christmassy, but they were overdone a little bit. But I still just enjoyed the story way too much, so it was definitely still a 5-star. And then they also tried to create like a love triangle situation, and it worked in the beginning of the book, but at the end, kind of the way the situation played out, it felt just unnecessary and like added drama. So yeah, other than that though, there's like, you have a found extended family, plus like the family units, which I really enjoyed that, because basically the premise is you have the parents are all friends from college, and every year they go to this cabin, and so their kids have grown up together. So you have the parents, the adult children, and then there's also 2 twins that are younger, that are still children. And so, yeah, I really like that family aspect. There was a lot of like traditions that they did, which I really enjoyed. And then kind of just the thing, are we doing these traditions just because it's traditions, or are we truly enjoying these traditions? And I just had a blast. I liked that they didn't go overboard with the whole groundhog theme, like, because that could have gotten really repetitive and really boring. And so the first part of the book, she's repeating days, but it still felt kind of fresh. And then they kind of veer away from that, but they bring it back in later on. So it's just not like kind of, well, what happened to this magical element here? And yeah, I just absolutely loved everything about this. Excuse the dogs. So yeah, that was In Holidaze. I did read half of The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox. So that, I'm like literally exactly half. I think I read 166 pages last night, and I have 164 to go. So like exactly half. Took me a little bit to get into this. Much better than their other book, All I Want for Christmas. That one like ended up being a 2-star. I did not enjoy it at all. I am enjoying this. There's just something kind of, it feels more cohesive than the other one, which makes sense because based on what I read in the other one, that one they kind of each took a character, where this one it seems like they wrote it together. And so it's a little bit more cohesive. There's just something about the writing that I don't fully connect with still. But right now it's sitting about a 4-star because I really like the characters. You have one sister who's in a small town, one sister who's in LA and a bigger city, and the whole premise is they swap lives. I like the romantic interest. And yeah, I'm just having a good time so far. I like each of the twins. Like, there's not a whole lot of depth, so like you kind of get the little bit of differences, but they're not very distinct, I would say. But they're still really enjoyable. And yeah, having a great time with this. I like the baking element. There are some pop culture references in here, but it really works because it's very specific for Christmas and it's not being obnoxious about it. And so yeah, I'm gonna be finishing up this one today for sure. And then of course we got day 18 book, which I'm a little nervous because I wish I had finished off this one. But this one, it's a paperback, but it's definitely thicker, and I don't know what it is. Hopefully it's one that's an easy read though, so I can finish up this. I have been very productive this morning, and other than laundry and like changing the sheets and such, so remaking the bed, I'm done with my chores. I just have the rest of the laundry loads to do, but I was very, very productive, and I knocked out a lot of chores. This morning is probably about 10 right now, I want to say. But let's go ahead and see what today's book is. Oh, okay. This works. I'm not upset that this is thicker. So this is a Prairie Christmas collection. And there's 9 historical Christmas romances. I read this part of this last year. And so we're on the Christmas necklace, which let's see how many that leaves me. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the stories. This one, I'm not like pushing myself to read all of the stories. If I just read 1 or 2, that's perfectly fine. So I'll see what I read tonight and then probably just move on tomorrow, and the rest of them will get saved for next year. But it's all like Prairie, like historical Christmas stories. And I did enjoy the ones I read last year, so I don't remember them specifically, but I know I enjoyed them. So it says, a treasury of historical Christmas romances, settling the vast open prairies, weathering the winter storms, and finding joy to celebrate during Christmas epitomizes the pioneer experience. In this unique collection of 9 Christmas romances, readers will relive a prairie Christmas with all its challenges and delights as penned by multi-published authors. And then there's just a ton of authors. The warmth of Christmas will radiate in new love from the high plains of Minnesota and Dakota Territory, across the rolling hills of Nebraska, Iowa, and Illinois, and down into the flats of Kansas. Filled with inspiration and faith, each story will become a treasure to be enjoyed again next year. So yeah, just a little collection of stories, so we'll just see how many I read, and I will let you know that tomorrow, but I'm going to tuck in to this and then enjoy a couple of these, and I'll be back in just a moment to give you my thoughts and see what I'm reading tomorrow. It is day 19. I did finish the Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox yesterday. This one, writing-wise, it was honestly more of like a 2 or 3 star. Probably 3 star because it wasn't horrible. Then their other book, like, the writing wasn't great, and then the characters were dislikable, and their choices didn't make sense and were kind of stupid. In this one, the writing's not great, but the characters are at least likable. I like the setting. I like the premise of the book. And so I ended up actually giving this one a 4 star just for personal enjoyment, even though the writing wasn't that great, because I love a twin swap. Like, I am obsessed with twin swap, like movies that do the twin swap. I absolutely adore, and I always have. So yeah, I ended up giving it a 4 star, but the writing's still not great. There's not a lot of depth to the characters or the plot line, even like things that happen are just kind of lackluster. There's just not a lot of depth. It's very flat writing, but at least the characters are likable in this one versus like the other book they wrote. They're not likable and their choices are stupid. Some of their choices aren't the greatest, but like it makes sense because that's how this trope needs to go. Otherwise you really won't have a story. So yeah, I really overall enjoyed this, even though the writing's not great. I will say though, in romances you always kind of have that falling out and then the reconciliation. And at the reconciliation point, it drug on. Like, it should have been wrapped up a lot quicker than it was. And so by the time I got kind of to the update point, I was just kind of over it. I didn't really love the update, but yeah, it was cute. Not well written, but cute. And if you like this trope, I think you would enjoy this. So there's that one. I did also read 2 of the stories in a Prairie Christmas collection. I decided I wanted to reread the 3 I had read before. So I read the first 2 in here that I have read before. They're okay. They're not amazing, but they're like, if you like historical romance, I think you would like these. And so the first one, you have a teacher, and she basically gets sent to the next county over. All her family always stays within Rosewood, which is where they live, and her dad's like, they need a teacher just to get through, like just 2 months, and then you can come home. And so she ends up going. Her mom's against it, like, all her family always stays in Rosewood. Well, she meets a guy there, and he's like, I want to marry you, like, and it's late 1800s, so it's kind of fast, like insta love, but whatever. And so anyway, she's like, I can't stay here. All my family always lives, and I miss my family. And so, that's kind of the conflict there. And then in the one I finished, at bedtime, you have this girl from Boston. Her mom marries someone, and I think they're in Nebraska. Her mom marries someone in Nebraska and moves her out from Boston. She's like 17 or about to be 17. And there's the blacksmith of the town who always kind of teases her, and everybody thinks she's very uppity, and she just wants to go back to Boston. She misses her grandma. And so she never really gives the town a chance, and everybody thinks she's kind of uppity. But he's like, he wants to marry her. And so, he's like maybe give the town a chance, and kind of courting her and such. And so it's cute as well. I think the second one better than the first one. The first one is a little bit too like insta love and dramatic, where this one, they've known each other for like 8 months or whatever, so it's a little less. So yeah, I'm gonna keep reading this, I think, until the end of the month and try to get through all 9. So I'll probably give you a little update on the ones I read. I'm gonna try to read each night at least 1 or 2 at bedtime. Well, I'm gonna have to read at least 2 because the end of the month's fast approaching. So yeah, I'll probably read 2 each night, and I'll give you an update the next day on those 2. But these first 2, they're cute. They hit the spot, but they're nothing amazing or anything like that. But we gotta see what we're reading today. So today is day 19. This is a paperback. It's pretty thin. I'm hoping it's one of the middle grade, because I still have the second Matt Haig one. And I also have another cute one that I'm really looking forward to. I can't wait till that one comes up. But we'll just have to see what this one is. Oops. Come on, tape. Not cooperating. We'll just switch to the other tape. There it goes. Alright, let's see what we got in this one. So we got... Okay, yes. So this is the other Matt Haig one, which is what I was hoping for. So this is The Girl Who Saved Christmas, which is the second one after A Boy Called Christmas. And so I'm excited to read this. And it says, Amelia Wishart was the first child ever to receive a Christmas present. It was her Christmas spirit that gave Santa the extra boost of magic he needed to make his first trip around the world. But now Amelia is in trouble. When her mother falls ill, she is sent to the workhouse to toil under cruel Mr. Creeper, and it's not long before her hope begins to drain away. As Christmas approaches, magic levels dip dangerously low at the North Pole, and Santa knows that something is gravely wrong. With the help of his trusty reindeer, a curious cat, and Charles Dickens, he sets out to find Amelia, the only girl who might be able to save Christmas. But first, Amelia must learn to believe again. So, this sounds like it's going to be really, really cute. I enjoyed the first one a lot, so I think I should enjoy this one as well. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be working on today. I'm going to read this one, and then I'll read a couple more out of the Prairie Christmas collection. I'm going to go ahead and leave you for the moment, and I'll be back just a second for you guys, but in the morning to give you my thoughts. All right, it is December 20th. I ended up reading 3 more of the Prairie Christmas collections. I ended up reading Image of Love by JoAnn Grote. I did enjoy that one. It's basically you have a widow. She lost her one brother and her fiance in the war, which is the Civil War. And then she's living with her other brother and his wife, and they're raising the brother they lost, his 2 kids. It never mentions what happened to the mom of those kids, but anyway, so they're raising them, and she's still, like, it's been like 5 years, but she's just can't imagine loving anybody else. And then you have a new blacksmith and his friend who ends up buying the livery, and his friend by the livery is raising his younger brother. And so he, Caesar wants to court her and such, but she just has no interest in that. And then obviously it's a romance, so things ensue. And then we had the Christmas necklace, which could have been good, but I think there was things that needed to be left out and other things that needed to be developed more. But basically you have this woman, and she's rich, well off. Her house burns to the ground. She's lost her parents, she lost her husband, and her house ends up burning to the ground, and she loses everything. And then her uncle basically tells her, like, your father left a lot of debts, and so we're gonna have to sell off everything, and you're just poor now. And so she ends up going to work as a domestic servant at this estate. And she had a housekeeper, and she was like, I'm going to go work for my rich sister. And so it all ties back to this estate she ends up going to. It turns out, her parents were actually her biological parents, and her mother, her bio mother, is very extremely jealous. And basically was gonna either kill her off, and so she sent her, like, sold her essentially. And so she's at this house, and then she gets accused of stealing, and so she ends up on the run with this guy. And I think, like, there was just a lot left out, other things that were added that weren't necessary, like the whole uncle thing, like, that was weird and didn't need to be added, because basically he wanted her to marry him, and it never developed into anything. It's like, why did you highlight that if it's not going to develop into anything? So anyway, I didn't love that one, even though the premise I enjoyed. And then the last one that I read last night I really enjoyed, and it was The Christmas Gift of Love by Darlene Mindrup. And this one's a marriage of convenience, forced proximity. So basically you have this woman, and her father just died, and again, his debts, she ends up, like, the bank now owns the land, and so she has to move. She has nowhere to go. She has no other family. And so there's this guy who is a friend of her father's. They're about this, like, they're only 5 years apart. So, he was younger than her father, but they were friends. And he never wants to get married because he lost his wife when he came out west, and just doesn't want to open his heart to love again. But she needs a place to go, and so he's like, why don't we get married, and it will just be, you just take care of the house and yada yada, and then you'll have a place to live. And so, but his house is just a 1-room cabin. And so he's like, I'll build on eventually. But they end up helping their neighbors who are very poor, and just kind of fall in love in the process. So I really enjoyed that one. I thought it was well developed, and I liked the premise and everything like that. So I do have 4 more to go. So we'll see how much I get read today. It depends on the book I pull today. But I'm hoping to at least read one more today. But I'll just keep continuing on with that until I finish the last 4. I did start The Girl Who Saved Christmas by Matt Haig. I read 75 pages. I read that, like, right at bedtime. And so I think it'll be pretty fast to get through this afternoon. and then I can start on whatever today's is. It's okay so far. I'm not enjoying it as much as I enjoyed the first one, A Boy Called Christmas. I enjoyed that one a lot more. But it's okay so far. So we'll see. I don't have a lot of thoughts on it yet. Not a lot has happened. The trolls have attacked Elfhelm. But past that, nothing. Not a lot has happened. And so her mom's sick, and so she's kind of they're poor and whatnot. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll give you more thoughts on this once I finish it. Probably, like I said, I should be able to wrap this up this afternoon. So I'll tell you more about this one tomorrow morning. But let's go ahead and see what today, again, day 20. Let's see what it is. It is a hardback, and I cannot think of what it could be. So we're just gonna have to see here. So let's see. And of course, there's always that one piece of tape that does not want to cooperate. Alright, let's see what it is. This way? Oh, this way? Okay. So this is another book. I reread The Immortal Nicholas by this author. This is The Christmas Sweater by Glenn Beck. And I picked it up. I saw it at a thrift store, and I was like, I really like The Immortal Nicholas, so I would love to try something else by this author. And so this is it. The Immortal Nicholas did read really fast, so I'm hoping this one will be the same. It looks like the writing's pretty big, and it has pictures as well, so that's going to be helpful. But it says, let's see here. If you could change your life by reversing your biggest regrets, sorrows, and mistakes, would you? When Eddie was 12 years old, all he wanted for Christmas was a bike. Although his life had gotten harder and money tighter since his father died and the family bakery closed, Eddie dreamed that somehow his mother would find a way to have his dream bike gleaming beside their modest Christmas tree that magical morning. What he got from her instead was a sweater, a stupid, handmade, ugly sweater that young Eddie left in a crumpled ball in the corner of his room. Scarred deeply by the realization that kids don't always get what they want and too young to understand that he already owned life's most valuable treasures, that Christmas morning was the beginning of Eddie's dark and painful journey on the road to manhood. It will take wrestling with himself, his faith, and his family, and the guidance of a mysterious neighbor named Russell to help Eddie find his path through the storm clouds of life and finally see the real significance of that simple gift his mother had crafted by hand with love in her heart. Based on a deeply personal true story, The Christmas Sweater is a warm and poignant tale of family, faith, and forgiveness that offers us a glimpse of our own lives, while also making us question whether we really know what's most important in them. So, alright, so we got a little bit more of a serious one. So I got a nice mix here to work on. So I'm definitely going to finish this one up today for sure, then start on this one, and I'm hoping I can get at least one more of this read as well. So that's kind of where we're at. So we got lots happening today. Definitely getting a little bit behind, but I went to the store this morning and I don't really have anything else planned for this afternoon except reading. So hopefully I can boogie through these and I will give you my thoughts, let you know how I did today, and give you my thoughts in the morning, which of course for you guys will be just a moment. It is day 21 and Advent Bookmas has been going really great so far. So unfortunately I did not get any more stories from a Prairie Christmas collection read, so I still have 4 more to work on from this book, but this is a lower priority because I never intended to read the whole thing anyway, but hopefully over the next few days I can get more of this read. I did, however, finish The Girl Who Saved Christmas by Matt Haig. This one ended up being a 2-star for me, unfortunately. I just didn't love it. I don't think the way the plot was kind of set out was done very well. The explanation for the loss of magic wasn't done very well. There was a lot of bullying, not just from the villains, but also from the good characters. They were bullying as well, and violence and such, and then several references to drinking. So, not a fan of that in a middle grade book either. And then still that bathroom humor with Blitzen. I don't think it's funny. I know kids find bathroom humor funny, but to me it just detracts from the book. So yeah, ended up being a 2-star. Basically, you have Amelia, and she's the first child that Father Christmas gave a present to. And as far as like the timeline goes, so in A Boy Called Christmas, it's kind of Santa Claus's or St. Nicholas, Father Christmas, his origin story essentially. And so where it ends, like, he's older now. And so this is like the first 3 Christmases. And it just felt like more people they were implying that more people should know who Father Christmas was. But if it's the first 3 Christmases, then that's not going to happen. And the second Christmas didn't actually happen, so it was only one Christmas that actually took place. And that's where the kind of the disconnect for me really happened, is because the second Christmas, there's a loss of magic, and it's the hope. The hope is what fuels the magic. And Amelia, her mother's really sick, but at the point where the magic is kind of breaking down, Amelia still has hope. Her mother's sick, but she's hoping Santa or Father Christmas can come in and help save the day. So she still has hope. And then also, kind of as it's wrapping up, she has hope, but the magic is still failing. And that wasn't really ever fully explained. Like, why is the magic failing so much if she's the key to all the hope? Which she's not, and there's other hope in the world. And so it didn't really explain that. So there was kind of a disconnect there. There's also 2 plot lines going. So you have Amelia, and she loses her mom and ends up in a workhouse and is just miserable. And then, the whole magic element where, like, the magic is failing and Father Christmas isn't able to deliver presents and such because he has no magic. But there's also this troll element, and I think that just kind of detracted. So you're going back and forth between Amelia and what's happening in Elfhelm, and it's back and forth, and it just kind of detracted from the main plot line of the loss of magic and Amelia, that troll plot line. So I didn't really like that either. And so yeah, and then with all the other issues I mentioned, it was a 2-star for me. I did really like A Boy Called Christmas, and I do like you kind of get the origin of Mrs. Claus as well. There's a character that comes in that's clearly gonna be, Mrs. Claus. So I did like that part as well. And there's a cat, and there was a lot of shortcomings with this book for me, but I did finish it. So there's that one. And also this morning I finished The Christmas Sweater by Glenn Beck. I read over half last night and then finished it up this morning. This was really quick to read. Like, there's a lot of the chapters have this red page, and then there's always a picture. Let me see if I can turn the page right. There's always a picture at the beginning of the chapter. So depending on where the other chapter left off, there's either a red page, but there's always a picture at the beginning of the next chapter. And this one, I really enjoyed it up until the end. I ended up giving this a 4-star. Parts are based on true things from the author's past. His mom made him a Christmas sweater. He wasn't appreciative of it. There's loss of parents and such in here. But the way the ending played out, I don't want to spoil it, but the way it played out just kind of invalidated the rest of the story and lost that impact. And then you're reading about, like, he's talking about which parts were kind of true and based on parts from his past. At the end, like, the last chapter is kind of like his past and what parts he based the story on. And I really wish the author had been more true to, like, the actual inspiration, because it is very, very fictionalized. And the way the ending played out, like I said, like, it was so impactful and so moving, and then the ending, the way it played out, just kind of negates all that, And so that was a little bit frustrating. And then also because it is, Christian faith-based. The thing I have a problem with Christian books is, like, if you just find God, everything's gonna be okay. Like, it's gonna fix everything, and that's just not how life works. Like, it's not how life works. And so that message was throughout, and it kind of tied into that ending and why I didn't like the ending as well. So really enjoyed it. If you are a Christian and you have a lot of faith, and you want like a moving, heartfelt story that revolves around family, this would be a good one to pick up. But it just, like I said, those issues fell short, and I really wish he had stuck truer and not fictionalized so much. And then the ending hadn't played out how it was, and like I said, a little bit more realistic as far as faith, like, would have been nice. But still a really great book. And so now we need to open today's book, which I'm glad I got those two finished up because today is the last bigger book that we have. It is a hardcover. And again, I don't remember what it is. So it's going to be kind of just a surprise to me until I get it, pulled out and then be like, oh yeah, I remember I wrote that book. But we'll have to just see what it is here. So hopefully it's a faster read as well, because I'm really trying to stay on track, and I would like to finish those last 4 stories from the other book. So, okay, awesome. So this is something a little bit different. So this makes me excited, because I've been reading a lot of contemporary romance, a lot of cat books and such, some more serious books dealing with loss and whatnot. And this is something completely different. I completely forgot this was kind of a last minute addition because originally the Yuletide stories and poems I've been reading with my husband, I originally got that to go within 24 Days of Bookmas, but I didn't realize like how thick it was and like the set out. I thought it was going to be more like poems and such and like shorter stories. And then when I got it, I realized like, yeah, I don't want to read that for, one of the days. And I had gotten this book, and so I'm excited about this. So let's see here. It says, at one exclusive writer's retreat, it's publish and perish. Alex has all but given up on her dreams of becoming a published author when she receives a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Attend an exclusive month-long writing retreat at the estate of feminist horror writer Raza Vallo. Even the knowledge that Ren, her former best friend and current rival, is attending doesn't dampen her excitement. But when the attendees arrive, Rosa drops a bombshell. They must all complete an entire novel from scratch during the next month, and the author of the best one will receive a life-changing 7-figure publishing deal. Determined to win this seemingly impossible contest, Alex buckles down and tries to ignore the strange happenings at the estate, including Rosa's erratic behavior, Ren's cruel mind games, and the alleged haunting of the mansion itself. But when one of the riders vanishes during a snowstorm, Alex realizes that something very sinister is afoot. With the clock running out, she must discover the truth or suffer the same fate. A claustrophobic and propulsive thriller exploring the dark side of female relationships and fame. The writing retreat is the unputdownable debut novel from a compelling new talent. Yes, I am excited. It's just over 300 pages, which is perfect. And I think this will be a nice kind of mix-up, but still kind of that wintry theme, which is absolutely perfect. And I've been wanting to read this for a while, so I'm excited about this. So I think I'm probably going to be more inclined to start this evening. I particularly like thrillers and such more in the evening, and it sounds like that would fit better. So we are going over to my husband's uncle's house for lunch and such, so I might bring this and work on this during the day, and then I'll switch over to this tonight, and we'll see how much of it I can get read, but I am really excited. And so yeah, that's it for the moment. I will be back on in just a few seconds for you guys, but in the morning for me to give you my thoughts on whatever I accomplished today. It is Saturday. Generally, I'm more inclined to spend, like doing something with my husband on Saturdays than reading. So we'll just have to see how the days goes, but I'll be back in just a moment. All right, it is day 22, And I didn't get a lot of yesterday's book read, but I did read. So first up, we went over to my husband's uncle's house for lunch, but we stopped by his mom's house first. And as part of the Yuletide poems and stories book, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens was in there. And I was already planning on reading this, and then it was in there, so it kind of worked out. And we've been reading that aloud, and so I was like, well, maybe your mom would like it, if we read it aloud with her. And so we read a little bit before we went over to his uncle's, and then we finished off the rest of it afterwards. And so we didn't get home until 6:37 at night, but we did read A Christmas Carol with her. This is my third year reading this, and I really enjoyed it, and it was fun reading it with other people for sure. So there's that one. I read 2 of the stories out of a Prairie Christmas collection. So I ended up reading God Jewel by Tracie Peterson. That one was like Swedish based, and there was a bunch of Swedish recipes, which was really fun. There was a recipe at the beginning of each chapter, but basically, it's this woman and her mom dies. Her father died a while back. Her brother and sister are already married and off on their own land, and then she's the youngest, and she was taking care of their mother who was sick, and she ends up passing away. And then there's the railroad, and her brother wants to not only sell the property, but that ends up wanting to sell it to the railroad. There's also an evil villain with the railroad man, which was fun aspect to it. And then their neighbor, he's been farming both his land and their land, because her and her mom obviously couldn't do that, and the brother didn't have any interest. And then he's been in love with her, for years. And so yeah, that was that one. It was a lot of fun. I liked that it included all the different Swedish recipes. That was fun. And then I read Circle of Blessings by Deborah Raney. That one was different than the other one, so it was more like academic. And so you have this guy, and his sister's really sick. And so this right in the beginning, he ends up stealing money, trying to support his mom and his sister. And he ends up making restitution, and he dreams to go to college. So he's really praying hard, and then he gets this gift, and ends up going to college, and then he's tutoring this girl. And then, of course, they fall in love, but her father doesn't approve, especially once he finds out about his past. And so they kind of have to overcome that. And that one was okay. It was different. It was pretty well written. I just didn't fully love it. It wasn't quite what I was looking for. Because it didn't, because it was academic, it could be really any time period. And so it didn't really feel as historical as the others so far. So I do have 2 more to read in here that I'm looking forward to. But I probably won't get to those 2 today. And then I did start the writing retreat, because that's kind of my whole goal with the Abbott, is at least start the book the day I open it. I only read about 20 pages last night, and then I was reading a little bit this morning. So I'm about 50 pages in now, so not very far at all. It's okay. I'm not loving it. There's some weird things with blood, that I'm not really quite sure where the story's going with that. 'Cause the whole premise is, she has her favorite author, Rosa Vallow, and there's a month-long writing retreat, and so she gets the opportunity to go. There's also a friend that they had a big falling out last year, and so that's kind of weird. And there's like I said, weird blood things and kind of hints at weird sexual things, which I don't love. The part I read this morning, I'm really struggling with, because it's woke, and she even says that in the book, and it's just it's overdone. So they're using, they're stating their pronouns, and the 3 are, stating their pronouns, and the other girl's completely clueless. And then there's one girl, person of color there, and she's, going on, about how, she's really lived white, her whole surroundings and everything were very whitewashed. And that in and of itself is fine, but the way she's highlighting it, really bringing attention to it is kind of getting under my skin a little bit. I like that it's included in here. You know, they're using the pronouns, they're paying attention to color, but just the way she's highlighting it, it's like you're trying too hard to highlight that. So I'm hoping that will smooth out a little bit. This is, I think, the author's debut book, if I'm recalling right. So I'm hoping as we get further in the story that will smooth out a little bit. But yeah, it's the way that's being highlighted. It's like you're trying too hard. So, but yeah, so far it's okay. I'm not loving it, but I'm only 50 pages in. They've barely gotten to the manor, which there's a mystery regarding the manor and such. And then you don't really know what happened between her and her friend. You're just getting hints that something big happened, but you don't really know what it was. And so yeah, we'll see where this one goes, but I'm not very far in yet. But today we have book number 22. It is a paperback. I think I have one more paperback and one hardback over there, but this is the thickest of the three that are left. But don't really have anything big planned today. So hopefully I'll be able to get a lot of reading in. I do kind of want to play World of Warcraft with my husband, but we'll just have to see how it goes. I think it's kind of dependent on what this book is. So let's see, is this fine? Yes! Okay, I'm excited. So this is the Christmasaurus by Tom Fletcher, illustrated by Shane Devries. And I am so excited for this one. I've seen this on a couple of booktube channels, and I was like, I know I want to read that this year. And so I picked up a copy, and I can't wait. This is going to be really, really fast, which is great. So it says, there's only one thing on William Trundle's Christmas list. Never in William's wildest dreams did he think that Santa would actually bring him a dinosaur. And honestly, neither did Santa. But William is a boy who believes in the magic of the season, even if it includes a strange cast of characters, the meanest girl in school, possibly the world, Santa Claus, yes, the real Santa, a horrible villain called Hunter, yikes, and the most unusual dinosaur. So I am excited. I don't know if this is more children's than middle grade. I think it is, but it's going to be fast, and there's illustrations in here, which I love. So yeah, this is a perfect one for today, so I can catch up on the writing retreat and get this one knocked out. And then hopefully I might have time to read at least one more, if not both of these. We'll just have to see. It kind of depends on what I decide to do today and all that. But these are kind of what I'm working with today. So I will be back in just a moment to give you an update and my thoughts on these. Merry Christmas Eve. There's only 2 days left of this, and I'm excited to see what I'm going to be reading. My husband and I did go ahead and finish off A Christmas Treasury of Yuletide Stories and Poems last night. There's only 2 left. And I figured that way kind of just relax up until Christmas. There was like a 1-page poem, and then it ended on a Sherlock Holmes story. So pretty fun. Not the best collection. Like, a lot of them were kind of tedious. Some of them didn't make sense, but there were some classic things that is kind of what I was looking for in here. So I might keep this around. I haven't quite decided. I ended up going with the 2 stars for the overall collection, because the majority of them I wasn't a big fan of. So, but we finished it. So there's that. I did also finish The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. This ended up taking me all day, and I ended up actually even staying up a little late to just finish it off. I think I went with 3 stars on this. The main plot, you do have to kind of suspend disbelief, because it really doesn't make sense. It's like how these people thought they weren't going to get caught. Like, I don't know. It didn't really make sense. So you do have to suspend your disbelief. But I liked it. Like, you got these writers coming together for a writer's retreat in an isolated setting, and there's something more sinister going on. I like there was little touches of like horror-esque things, especially with the history of the house and the story our main character is writing during the retreat. You get little excerpts from that, which that kept me really engaged. I was into that story. I was like, I want to read this story. But the problem with it, especially in the beginning, it does kind of smooth out a little bit towards the end. But in the beginning, there was just kind of this lack of focus. There were some weird sexual things, which do tie back around in the end and kind of make sense for what you get in the end, but they just weren't well placed and they were just weird and they really took me out of the story. Like I start really getting into it and then there would be this weird sexual thing thrown in and I'm like, what is going on here? So I didn't love that. I think there was just too much. You have her history with her friend and then you got the horror element and the main plot line and these stories that they're writing and this weirdness with the author who's hosting the retreat and the history of the house, and there's just a lot going on. And then it also I'm going to use the term I used yesterday, it was almost too woke, for lack of a better term. I just can't think right now. And I like those elements in books. I like when books do those, but I think it would have worked better if she had just included it, but she really had to highlight, like, oh, look, I'm doing this. Like, I'm including, issues about race because we have the token black girl, and so, like, issues about race and slavery, LGBTQIA issues, the Holocaust because her family is Hungarian and Jewish, and so like the Holocaust, and it put too much emphasis on it, and so it really felt, I use the word on my review, disingenuous. Like it's like, oh well, this is the way the world is now, so I really need to make sure, so we're using our pronouns and we're using this, and like all that would have been fine if it just had been included, but to put such an emphasis on it, it was trying too hard. And it just kind of turned me off. It's like, I like those things in books, but like it's too much. It's too much. You're trying too hard. And then I didn't love the ending. The ending just kind of felt me like, really? That's the ending? And so there was like a smooth part kind of in the middle where things kind of smoothed out a little bit. But I didn't love the beginning. It wasn't very well focused. And then, like I said, that having a lot of attention on the social commentary issues was like, okay. And then the ending just fell flat. So I think I gave it 3 stars because it wasn't a horrible read. I said the main plot I actually did enjoy, but yeah, it was something. And the first part is slow. Like the action doesn't really pick up till probably 2/3 of the way in, I would say. So yeah, there's that one, but I did finish it, so that's good. And per what I'm trying to accomplish, I did start The Christmasaurus by Tom Fletcher. I only read about 30 pages though, but I was just so tired. I couldn't keep my eyes open. I read this until like about midnight, and so it was like, I just want to start it so, it keeps up with my goal of opening and reading. But yeah, I didn't get very far. We kind of found out, I like how it starts with the dinosaurs and kind of an explanation of what happened to this egg. And then you get introduced to, what's his name? William and his dad. And then kind of the roles of elves, and what they actually do. So, enjoying it so far. I really like how he emphasizes words. Like here you have dinosaurs really big, and he does that with other words too. So anything that's kind of important, he does that. And then there's some like cute little songs. There's the illustrations I really, really like. So yeah, I will be definitely able to read this today, get it finished today, because those 30 pages were super quick. I was just super tired. So there's that. And unfortunately, I did not get to read either of the last 2 of A Prairie Christmas Collection, so I am hoping I can get to this today as well. I'm planning on, I was going to do chores and kind of get the house ready for Christmas, but there's nothing that's all that pressing, and I think I might actually wait till after Christmas. That way I can finish up my reading since there's only 2 days left. And so I'll just do a big chore day on Thursday. But today is the 23rd, so we gotta see what this book is. It is a paperback. I have no clue what these last 2 books are, so it's gonna be a surprise to me. Like, I'm trying to rack my brain and see if I can remember, and I don't have a clue. So let's go ahead and get this open, and we will find out together. Like, once I see it, obviously I'll remember, oh yeah, I wrapped that book. But right now, like, I can't think. So let's see here. Okay, there's the edge. So that. Okay, I forgot all about this book. So We'll Always Have Christmas by Jenny Hale, a gorgeously uplifting Christmas romance. So we have another romance. It says, an enchanting story about the magic of Christmas, the importance of family, and the joy of falling in love during the most romantic season of the year. Christmas has always been a special time for Noelle Parker. Winter evenings spent with family and friends, drinking hot chocolate and eating cookies at her family's cozy bakery have shaped her love for all things festive. But this year, everything is changing. The beloved bakery is facing closure, and Noelle needs a miracle to save Christmas. Determined to raise funds for the family business, Noelle sets about revamping the bakery while juggling a surprise new job, caring for the elderly and cantankerous William Harrington in his luxurious, sprawling mansion. As Noelle melts the frostiness of the house with cake baking, snowball fights, and glittering decoration, she helps William to reconnect with a romance that has spanned decades, and unexpectedly finds herself falling for his grandson, the gorgeous but mysterious Alexander Harrington. In the countdown to Christmas, can Noelle save the bakery, reunite a family, and create some magical memories of her own along the way? So this seems like it's going to combine a lot of elements that I love. Obviously, always love a bakery. Like, that's just so cozy, especially at Christmas time. You got like a historical element there. It's going to be a little bit more serious, I think, than some of the other contemporary romance, but still kind of giving that cozy, warm vibe. So I'm excited about this. I hope I enjoy it. It's just over 300 pages. It looks like 323, so not a super long one. These pages are really white too. Like, they are very white. But yeah, I'm excited. So I got 3 great books to work with today. So obviously, again, gonna finish up Christmasaurus, then probably tuck into this one and hopefully end the day with this. But we'll just have to see how it goes. Like I said, I'm planning on having a full-on reading day, and this one should be super fast. So I think we're looking pretty good, but we'll have to see. And then there's just one book left for tomorrow. It is a hardback, but it's tiny. And again, I can't think of what it is. But that will be a good way to wrap up this 24 days of Bookmas. Especially my husband has to work a half day tomorrow. They're trying really hard to finish out some things for the end of the year. So he is working a half day tomorrow, but then he'll come home. But then we're supposed to go over to my mother-in-law's. So that book is super tiny, which should be helpful. So like I said, I really want to get all 3 of these wrapped up so I don't have anything dragging over to tomorrow. But I'll let you know how it goes in just a second for you guys in the morning for me on Christmas Eve. So I will be right back. Happy Christmas Eve. Today is the last day of 24 days of Bookmas. Of course, I'll be back on for the last little update, but we only have 1 book left. But let's go ahead and talk about what I did read yesterday. So I wasn't really in the reading mood throughout the whole day. I just kind of felt blah and zony, so I played a lot of games on my phone and just kind of zoned out. So I read a little bit of this through the day, but I didn't really start it until the evening. And so the Christmasaurus by Tom Fletcher, I did finish. I gave it 4 stars. I really like this. I didn't realize this because when I've heard people talk about it, nobody's mentioned it. But it has disability rep. William here is in a wheelchair. So I really like that rep. And there's also a spot at the very end where he talks about whiz kids, I think it is. And so it talks about Whiz Kids, which helps kids in wheelchair. So that's really, really cool. And I really like that rep. It's also a good conversation starter with kids about bullying because William is bullied. And so that's a great conversation starter to talk about with your kids. And I just love the overall story. It's really kind of slow at first. You're just kind of getting introduced to everybody. It's going back and forth between William and then the North Pole and kind of explaining what the elves do and how they found this dinosaur egg. And then it kind of takes off. And so it's Christmas Eve and Santa's going to deliver the presents, and the Christmasaurus ends up hitching a ride. And then there's this hunter that wants the head of a reindeer, but then he sees the Christmasaurus and he's like, I want that. And so it's all about, trying to save Christmas and such from this hunter, the Christmasaurus from this hunter. And so that was really fun. The only reason it didn't get 5 stars, and I noticed this in the Matt Haig, the girl who saved Christmas, is the bullying and the name calling from not just the villains. Like if it was just the villains, I could kind of look past it, but it's not just the villains. Santa Claus is name calling, and yeah, they're name calling the villains, but I just think it really sends the wrong message in a children's book. And so that's what dropped it down for me, was that name calling and that bullying aspect. Like I said, not just from the villains. And so that's bleh. And then also, like Santa, he's a jolly fat guy. And the way that kind of was represented. Think of your 2 fattest relatives. Don't worry, they won't know you're thinking of them. And that kind of got under my skin a little bit too. But overall, I adored this. It is a series, so I am planning on trying to pick up the next one probably next year. But there's that. Then I decided I wanted to just go ahead and finish this. So I did finish a Prairie Christmas collection. So I read Christmas Cake by Janet Spaeth. That one, they were already married, which I like, because the other ones were more like romancy, where they're falling in love and courting and such. Where this one, they were already married. Her husband's from back east. And she's from a bigger city in Nebraska, but then they move out to the wild, basically. And her husband's always talking about past Christmases with his family, and he mentions this fruit cake, and so she's determined to make this fruit cake. But first, mice, because there's mice problem, get into the fruit cake ingredients, so she can't make it. So then she gets more ingredients, and then it just turns out horribly, and she's crying and she's upset, and it ends up turning around, and she ends up making her own version of it, because it's a very different ingredients and whatever. And they, it all works out in the end, but she just wants to make sure that he's happy and he doesn't regret moving out to the wilderness and, out to Nebraska and marrying her. So it was really cute. I really liked that one. And then Colder Than Ice by Jill Stengl. Really enjoyed that one as well. It's basically, you have this, and I like this had older protagonists. So, it's her and the preacher, and they're both in their 50s, encroaching on 50 or in their 50s. But basically, she lost her mom, and so she ends up coming out to live with her brother. Her and her brother do not get along. Her brother thinks she's just cold, and the way she treated his wife, because she's from poor people, but she was doing it because of her parents. And she lost her beau and such. So she doesn't interest in love. She's kind of very closed off. And then you have this preacher, and she's, mad at God. And so then he's like, I don't know if I could, I'm attracted to her. I want to be with her, but I don't know if she's not a believer, I can't be with her. And so it's kind of her starting to open up, and then her relationship with her brother be repaired, and then them coming together as well. So this collection overall, I think, was really, really great. If you like Christian historical romance, I thought this was perfect. And the Christian element, it's very prevalent there, but it's not obnoxious, if that makes sense, and it really fits for the times. And so, yeah, I think this is a great one to pick up. I think I loved most of them. I think there was the Christmas necklace was probably one of the only ones that I didn't really like. But other than that, I think I really loved all of these. So finished that one up. So that's officially done. But it was late. I was tired. I did start this though. So we'll always have Christmas by Jenny Hale. I read the first 15 pages, which was the prologue in the first chapter. This one, obviously not a lot to say so far. I'm not really vibing with the writing style. It's overly descriptive, which is bogging it down. Like little minute details she's describing that don't need to be described. Like, you can picture it without going into like, taking off, unwinding the scarf. And so I'm not vibing with the writing so far, but it is a beginning. You're just getting introduced to everything, and so I'm hoping that will smooth out as I get into it deeper. But basically, Noelle loses her job, like a company buys it out and then fires all the current employees, and so she's considering going back to her family's bakery, and helping out there and such. And so yeah, I'm excited to continue this today, but we also need to see what today's book is. It is a hardcover, and it is super tiny, and I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember what it is. My memory's horrible, but we're gonna find out right now. So let's go ahead and see what we got here. Yep. The last tape always wants to give me trouble. Okay, let's go ahead and see if I can get. Wow, it's hugging it. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Oh, okay. I didn't realize I put this one back in there. So this is the Christmas Shoes by Donna VanLiere. I actually read the third book in this series the first week. So I have read this before. It's based on one of my favorite Christmas songs, super sad. But basically his mother is dying and he wants to get her this pair of shoes for Christmas, but he doesn't have enough money. And there's this guy who's behind him in line and is like, kind of a bah humbug, like not really in the Christmas spirit. And then kind of his outlook changes a little bit seeing this little boy. And so yeah, I'll be rereading this. I'll end it on a reread. It is super tiny, super quick to read. It is only 130 pages, 129 pages. So super, super tiny, and it's going to be a nice quick reread for me, which is good since I do still have this to read. So I'm not sure how much reading I'm going to get in today because we are going over to my mother-in-law's, and then tomorrow's Christmas, so I probably won't do a lot of reading, but I'll definitely finish these up the end of the week and then hop on to give you my thoughts on these and wrap up this video. So again, it'll be just a moment for you guys and I'll give you my thoughts. All right, it is the day after Christmas, the 26th. I hope those who celebrate had a fantastic day. And even if you don't celebrate, I hope you had a fantastic day anyway. But yeah, Christmas was pretty good, pretty low key. We tend to do Christmas Eve and then stay home on Christmas to just play games and such because I love doing that. And so yeah, we just played games and kind of just chilled, had a little nap. It was quite nice. But I just need to wrap up this video and talk about the last two books. So for the 23rd, we had pulled We'll Always Have Christmas by Jenny Hale. I actually finished this last night. And the premise was there. I loved everything about the premise. You have this woman, she loses her job, and her family bakery, which her grandma started, is in trouble. And then she gets this job as a caretaker to this wealthy old man and starts falling in love with his grandson while taking care of him. And he kind of has this past love. And so, she's learning about that a little bit. The premise was there. It just was not executed well at all. The plot had no progression. And it was very repetitive as far as the conflict. So in the first half, the conflict is her bakery's gonna be closed, and the grandson has something to do with that. Like, he owns, like, the family owns these properties and such. And so that's the conflict. And it's just repetitive, but there's no progression to it. And very insta-lovey, which I don't necessarily mind insta-love if you see those little moments and that bonding. This one, like, they had one, like, when she first moved in, which the whole working relationship was weird right off the bat. Like, he has staff, but he's treating her like a part of the family, dining with her and her son and such. So it was just kind of a weird working dynamic too. And like, she needs time off to go see her family. Oh, well, I'll watch my grandfather, even though they don't get along and they don't speak. Like, it was just really weird. And so I think it was just trying to do too much, which it wasn't too much necessarily, but the way it was laid out, it was too much. And so there's just no plot progression. And so that was just a constant conflict. And every time she's with him, she completely forgets about the bakery and doesn't bring it up or anything. But the moment she's not with him, then, oh, well, how can I even like him? And yada, yada, yada. And they don't really have, like, these moments that would solidify, like, her feelings or anything like that. Like, they have one moment, then he goes back to New York. And then he ends up coming in and he takes her on this, like, ridiculously extravagant date, which was really weird. And I didn't like that about this character. Like, he's not what he is on the surface. He's more down home, but then he's doing, like, all these extravagant gifts and such. And it just really turned me off. Like, it was over the top. It was too much. And he wasn't really listening to her feelings. And so the initial conflict is about the bakery and, needing more time to try to save it. But she never brings it up. She never even tries to come up with ideas. And then it kind of shifts and, she finally talks to him or whatever. And it kind of shifts. And then the conflict is about him going to New York. And it just over and over. And the whole, him starting a relationship with not only this woman when he has no plans to stay, but also her son. She's a single mom with a son. And getting really, forming a bond with him. Like, that was a shitty thing to do. And I didn't like the way that was done. I could see the conflict. And I think it might have helped if we had gotten his perspective at all. But it's just her perspective. And so that was a little frustrating. And like they said, there's no progression on the bakery or anything until like the last third of the book. And so it's just, it was frustrating. And like they had no chemistry because like they had these little moments, but like that was it. And the chemistry was more with her son than her. And I was more invested in the grandfather, like his past love and such, which I saw the twist with that coming. Like you could see it a mile off. But yeah, and then it was just very overly descriptive, which slowed down the pacing a lot as well. And like I said, the plot just drug and it just never progressed until the very end. And then it was just kind of like, rushed a little bit. Well, not really rushed, but there was no depth to it, I guess. So yeah, I ended up giving it a 2-star. I did like some of the characters. Like I said, some of them was just kind of like, what is this? There was one character that was there in the beginning and then just kind of fell off the face of the book, or, world. Like, what happened to that character? But she wasn't a main player, so it was fine. So yeah, the premise is there. The execution was not. There's that one. And then I actually finished this before I finished that one. The Christmas Shoes by Donna VanLiere, which was my pick for the final day of Bookmas, which was the 24th, Christmas Eve. And this was a reread for me. And it's just such a heart-wrenching book. I really still loved it. The story, I know this is all tickly. My problem with this one is you're having like 3 different point of views. You have the main guy who is the one that's kind of like, he's the, he hasn't really been in the Christmas spirit. Like his family's falling apart. And he's just like a workaholic. He's all about work and not family. And then you have the boy who's losing his mom. And so those viewpoints are so heart-wrenching when it's that family. Like, it just breaks your heart. And then there's also this teacher, the teacher of the boy. You get a few of her viewpoints, which I remember when I read it the first time, I actually liked the teacher's viewpoint, but this time it's like, it actually kind of felt unnecessary. I wish I had just focused on the boy and then the man. But anyway, he sees this boy in the store Christmas Eve. He's like running like last door is open. He's trying to get gifts because he hasn't bought his family anything. And he sees this boy, and the boy wants to buy his mom shoes, which is what the song is based on, because she's very likely going to pass, sometime in the night. And so, but he doesn't have enough money. And so the guy, like, it really moves him, and he realizes, like, hey, my work is not what's important. Like, my family is what's important. And it kind of shifts his perspective. My problem with this one, I ended up giving it 4 stars because I really like the story. It's really heart-wrenching and moving. The transitions aren't done very well, though. So, like, it will literally jump from one perspective to the next. And it's, the main guy is told in first perspective, and then the rest is told in third person. But it just jumps, like, and it's not very clear. And so, like, sometimes you'll be reading, and then, it'll be like a paragraph break or whatever, and then it'll jump to the next, or, that section, that scene breaks, and it'll jump to a different perspective, but it's not very clear. So the different perspectives, the transitions were very jarring. And also, like, at the end, it kind of jumps ahead a little bit. But it doesn't give you that. And so, like, that time jump was a little jarring. Like, where are we in time? Like obviously we're in the future, but where? And then, like, at the very end, it's like, okay, now we're in 2000. The Christmas events are taking place in 1985, and then present day when he's telling you about this is 2000. So just the transitions aren't very smooth, and that's kind of what dropped it down. And like I said, why I initially liked the teacher's perspective, I really don't think it was necessary to the book because it didn't really add anything. I don't know, like, why it was there, so but yeah, it's a great little book, but obviously trigger warning for cancer and the death of the parrot. And I love the song. Like, it's one of my favorite Christmas songs, and it really hits. Like, my mom's mom passed. My mom's birthday is the 29th of December, and she passed on my mom's birthday when she was young. So it does, have that, like, it makes me think of my mom and what they were going through and such. So anyway, really great book. So I did give this one 4 stars, but that is it for the reads. Like, this is pretty good week, I would say, overall. Like, yeah, some of these I didn't particularly like, but overall, I think I pretty much enjoyed what I was reading. So, see if I can hold these up. But yeah, so this is the final week of what we read. I would love to know if you've read any of these books. If you're interested in reading any of these books, I'm going to try not to knock down the other pile of books. But yeah, I really had a great time doing this. I love doing 24 Days of Bookmas. I really enjoyed that it was all Christmas focused, minus the writing retreat, which was just winter. I really enjoyed having it more Christmas and holiday focused. But it did get kind of towards the end. It wasn't as fun. So I think next year when I do this, I'll probably alternate, do like half Christmas books and half like just wintry type books. Like in the past, I've just done whatever I'm reading, but we'll have to see. But yeah, I would love to know if you've read any of these books, if you're interested in reading any of these books, what your favorite book was that you read this month. And I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy New Year, and happy reading.